You've written 3 books in a series, Navaria. How did you come by that name?
Yeah, I think at that time I was listening to a lot of music and I loved an aria, and I just love the name Aria. It happened to be in Game of Thrones as well, but that's not the spelling. That's not what I was thinking of. But then when I was writing the story, I came up with this idea. It's a world at war, and so the people within the realm were like called Navaria, and that meant of the home or of the realm, and those on the outside, the bad guy, the monsters, were Rav. So they were Rav Aryans, and so I don't know. I just kind of ran with it, but
There's also a bit of violence in your books. How did that go over with your audience? How did they react?
good. If people are familiar with the fantasy genre, like adult fantasy, it's a world at war. And so as a history teacher, I was able to pour so much of my historical kind of themes and content and knowledge of a world at war and what that would look like. And it's gritty, you're not going to hold back. And so I was able to show all that through the lens of like fighting unicorns and centaurs and humans. And, it was kind of a nod to, I loved Narnia as a kid. I loved all sorts of, Harry Potter and those, but I wanted it like a grittier adult version. Like what happens when they actually fight. So that was fun. But I think because I am a teacher, I'm a younger female, a lot of people, especially if they talk to me, they're like, oh, you're so cute and bubbly. This must be for children. I'm like, no, and so if I go to book events, they're like, oh, great. My granddaughter loves unicorns. She's 7. I'm like, no, just maybe a little bit longer. And I always just say parent discretion. I know a lot of teenagers that love it, but there is like rape, pillage, and plunder. It's war. And so I don't think it's super terrible compared to like, I'm not a full blown George R. R. Martin, and it's not as sweet as something like The Hobbit or Narnia. It's intended for grown-ups, but yeah.
So that brings us to a book that you've written to solve this problem, Legend of Tiny Tales. So tell us about that book.
My new book. So this one, yeah, this is for children. And this one is so great. Navaria with the unicorns, that one, it was so cool, so inspired. I love fantasy. And so that one it was so cool. And I'm so proud of it. And I completed that trilogy. And then I was thinking of jumping into a different fantasy one that I have an idea for. But then during the pandemic, I was offered a job like the day before school to go teach in person the 2020-2021 school year. And so I went back and taught for just 1 year, and it was, that year was crazy. We're still suffering, or reliving a lot of that or dealing with the ramifications. And so the kids were just tender. Like it was a sweet group of teenagers, probably the sweetest group I've ever had. And I think it's because the world was so scary and confusing, and going to school was kind of like, I just wanted my classroom to be like a safe, positive place where we don't have to be talking about all these big issues. Let's just, we're talking big issues like history, but I would try to bring candy. I would show pet pictures. And so long story short, I found that a lot of the kids liked to talk about pets and animals, and that became kind of like common ground in such a divisive year, with the 2020 election and all, the pandemic. One thing that pretty much every kid wanted to talk about was, oh, I have a new puppy. I have an iguana. I love my goldfish, whatever. And so I would tell them little funny animal stories. They would tell me. And so it was after that school year, I was kind of really thinking about pets a lot, and I was inspired to write this book. So, and then I actually saw, because I live in Montana, and it's just, the big prairie, and we have an albino deer, this beautiful white doe that lives by our house. And I have bald eagles that fly around, and golden eagles and owls. And so I kept saw an owl. And then I saw bald eagles for like 8 days in a row. And so I just kind of thought up this story and the symbolism of kind of within a lot of indigenous culture, I live next to the Crow Reservation here in Montana. And so the owl can sometimes be seen as dark or like an omen, like an evil omen, or someone's going to die. And then the eagle can oftentimes represent like hope or purity or, something good. So there's some owls and eagles in this kid story.
Okay, so that's nice to hear. Um, a book to bring unity in a time of division, let's say.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I've found it heartwarming to see Instagram and the pictures and videos of your daughter. Can you talk about why did you choose to adopt a daughter?
Yep. My husband and I, we've been married for 10 years. And before we even got married, I had told him adoption's just always been on my heart. I always thought I would do it. And so around 2016, we decided it's time to start a family. And we had had a couple miscarriages. And so we didn't know if we'd do biological and adopt or adopt then biological. We weren't sure. But we had a couple miscarriages. And I just thought, I don't want to do that anymore. That is so, it's hard and it's heavy and it's heartbreaking. And I've been pretty open about that too, because I think that's a taboo subject a lot of families go through and it's heavy. But I thought, we've always wanted to adopt. Perhaps this is the time to explore this. And my husband was on board. We both just felt it was right. But we didn't know who would be adopting. A lot of people assume you'll adopt a baby or a young child. And I had been to Africa. I went and served at an orphanage school in Ethiopia in 2009. And so I always had just, for some reason, assumed I'd adopt a darling little African baby from somewhere. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who adopted from Ethiopia, but I know some people who have adopted from like the Congo and Kenya. And so I just kind of had this picture. So I had a nursery set up with like African safari. I was all ready to bring home our little baby. And then we learned I was still teaching high school, and we learned, and my husband was coaching at the high school I taught at, and it's the title school in town. So it's kind of on the lower income side in Billings where I live, you could say. There's still, kids of all different backgrounds, and I know I'm in Montana, so people don't think it's that diverse. But if you were to have a school, I did have kids, that's where the homeless kids were. Either I had gang kids, I had kids on probation, I had teen moms, a lot of different backgrounds and different kiddos, a lot of kids from the reservation or near the Crow or Cheyenne Reservation. And so we just kind of worked and saw some different things, and we just really wanted to help these older kids. And I heard about an organization that helps, unfortunately, older kids who have been adopted before, and then their other families, doesn't work out, or they choose to dissolve their adoption and look for a new adoptive family. And so I'd heard about it, and we found our daughter through that organization. And so we felt really strongly about it. But long story short, she was 9, a 9-year-old Asian girl. And I had a crib set up for like a little African baby. And so out went all the safari and the giraffes and all the crib and baby stuff. And pretty soon we got a bed, and there's pink and white and gold and a really beautiful, flashy little girl room. And we brought her home in 2017. So.
Yes, and I have to say to our viewers, please follow Katie on Instagram. You are very open about your private life, on personal life on Instagram. Yeah. And I find it great because adopting children is a very beautiful and nice thing to do. And I think it should happen more, I think. That's
kind of my heart and attitude is, I'll leave the arguing politics to someone else. But for me, I feel like where I can serve and help people best is by encouraging adoption and helping children, whether you're going to adopt them or not. You can foster. We had people who helped give us money or, gave us time or furniture. They just helped us prepare to bring someone home. And so there's so many ways you can walk alongside families that want to adopt and help them in the journey. And so I like to do that. And all my books have adoption themes. It's just always been on my heart. And then animals. So I just love kids and animals. So I leave the politicking to someone else, and I'll just focus on the helping people, I guess. But our little girl, she's darling, and now she's in high school, and so I do run like my pictures and videos by her. So we only share what she's comfortable, and I do think that's important to point out. With a lot of adoptive kids, it is their story, and her background is heavy. So I don't share all the details, but we give enough of a picture that she's comfortable with, because she is she's open to. I mean, she was an older kid who showed up at school like, yep, just got adopted again, and so it's just something that we share, and it's been beautiful. We've had her now for 5 years, and she's doing great.
Yes, that's nice to hear. Katie, what are the plans for the future? In terms of books, for example?
Yeah. So ours books, well, I'm working on this Pet Legends, so the pet adventure stories. And that one's been really fun because I thought maybe it would just be this one book, but now it's kind of evolved into this idea that would take my love and passion for kids and pets and adoption, but then also like my world history, geography, nerdiness, and clump it all into one. So it's going to be a collection of stories that I just envision sitting on a kid's bookshelf someday, and they could read one about Montana, and then the next one I'm working on is the Colosseo cat. And so it's in Rome, and it's cats, and it's urban, and so there'll always be like a domestic, like a pet, but maybe some of the animals in whatever region, and some kids, and it's just kind of a little adventure. And then the next one is the Legend of the Plaid Parakeet, and that's going to be down under. So it's like a Scottish family who moves to Australia with their pet bird. And so it's just funny, but I think it'd be so cute for kids, and they can learn a little bit of geography or a little teeny history lesson, but it's mostly just animals and adventure. And so, yeah, so that's what I'm working on now. And then I hope to go back to fantasy one of these days, but now these pets have taken over my life. So,
Katie, any parting thoughts? And if people want to follow you on social media, where should they go?
Ooh, okay. Well, first, social media, I'm KJ Backer on everything. So Facebook, Instagram, it's like KJ_Backer, and Twitter, LinkedIn, all the things. My parting advice for fellow writers, I love nerding out and talking with writers. I run a writing group, and so you're welcome to follow me. If you go to kjbacker.com, I have a newsletter, and sometimes I'll send out different writing tips and things we come up with. But I think the biggest thing in my message has been, whether it's writing books or adopting and starting a family or pursuing my teaching or running a marathon, whatever it is just go for it. Go all in. If you say you're going to do it, just pour all your energy and just do it. There's so many things I think that we have potential for and opportunities, and the world is so big and cool. And so I think it's important to remember not to limit ourselves and to just keep chasing those big dreams. But then you have to take your dreams and turn them into goals. And so if you don't know how to get from here to that big dream, start, bite-sized chunks to start ticking off or climbing toward that goal, or find someone. Nowadays, the bonus with technology is online. We get to talk to people like you, and there's so many blogs and resources and articles. And so there's so many ways to achieve your goals, I think, today, and technology does help that. But that's always been my thing. Dream big, go get them.
Okay. Katie, thank you for coming on the show, and everyone, till next time.
Thank you.